Book review number 4 is Vaclav Smil's vast tome entitled Energy and Civilisation, A History, with a marvellous painting by an unknown artist on the cover of an English pithead around 1800, and on the cover an endorsement by Bill Gates. That wasn't why I read it. It was, however, an endorsement that led me to it, this time by Malin Baker, who has a very interesting YouTube channel focusing on things ecological, if you're interested in that kind of thing, and also things scientific. So this leads us to the cross point of Smil's book, which is really a rundown of how much energy we've used and how much energy we've wasted and lost through the course of human history. There is some myth busting going on in the book, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but I'll give you an idea. First of all, our idea that early energy was muscle power must be true, followed by what we now call biomass, followed by coal usage, followed by charcoal. Why do we use charcoal instead of coal? But of course, all this schema, as with the Stone Age turning into the Bronze Age, to the Iron Age, etc., makes it seem as if there was a period and then that finished and then there was another period. One of the things this book makes clear is that there was still a hell of a lot of farming using horses, even when the Industrial Revolution was at full swing. It's a treasure trove for anybody that likes statistics. There are lots of graphs and statistical charts in it, and almost everyone holds a surprise. As for the science that you need to know to read this, well, it's all there. It's all worked out in kilojoules and watts and whatever you like, and all explained. And I'm not of a scientific mind. If you can understand what potential and kinetic energy is, you should be all right. So only basic knowledge required, I would say, given that I read it to the end and enjoyed it. Let's have a look at some of the things that it's focused on, and it really is panoramic and expansive. But for example, farming, our overview from modern times seems to be confirmed in this book that farming was a terrible idea, leading to monoculture, the degradation of the soil, the herding of animals leading to zoonotic diseases, the greater hours of work. And all this is calculated in this book, of course, in terms of joules of energy spent and returned, etc. However we set on this path, we go to grain storage, the crop cycle, lots of phenomenal ancient irrigation systems, of which I knew nothing, and the big problem of soil degradation, just mentioned, soil erosion, how to fertilise it. So we're moving in a world where we're trying to reduce things to their basics. As we've seen, biomass is used in the modern term, but of course that was the earliest of all fuels. Prime movers is another part of technological jargon here, as in humans or animals or fuels. Think also of the part that energy played in moving ships across the surface of the world, learning how to capture the energy most efficiently. Then of course there's metallurgy, warfare. One of the best graphs in the book being the comparison of the damage you could do with one arrow compared to the damage you could do with a field gun, compared to the damage you could do with a hydrogen bomb, and all the gaps in between. Having sketched out the idea that societal advance is almost always coupled with a higher energy requirement, even as we flock to urban centres, another of the great problems, which is not really mentioned, along with population growth, man-made climate change, we are tending to become more and more urban, demanding higher energy use. However, a note is sounded at the end, it's not always the case. And it's certainly not always the case that energy increased energy use leads to better life. Some interesting comparisons are made between a high energy use country such as Saudi Arabia and, you can imagine, various others, which, while they don't spend as much energy per person, could be said to have a better quality of life. Now, as somebody who tries to do their bit, let's say at least not filthy things up as much as possible, let's try to source locally, let's not use too many internal combustion engines, let's be vegan, etc. Plastic use, hopefully to a minimum. Encourage any of the projects that lead to planting more trees, protecting animals, etc., etc. But also wanting to follow the science, as Ms. Thunberg insists that we do. Well, I can't find anything more scientific than this book that I'm going to read, and we reach a couple of sad conclusions. I suppose the overriding one is that we can't keep, we can keep digging up fossil fuels for a while, but we can't keep contaminating the atmosphere with them. We're unlocking carbon which had been stored away for millions and millions of years all at once. The debate will rage as to how much, but I think it's generally now agreed that we're going to have to clean up. And if we want to do this with hydrogen cars and wind power, sad conclusion number one is that it's not going to be possible to provide 100% of the world's energy needs with renewable energies. Possibly, unless maybe if we include nuclear power, but again, nuclear power has a bad rap with the eco-folk. So, sad conclusion 1B is you're going to have to reduce the population, folks, if we want to carry on at this rate. And that leads to all kinds of ethical complications. The other separate sad conclusion is we could, well, it's not even that sad, we could just use less energy. And things seem to be pointing in this direction. Anyway, this is the conclusion that I've drawn from this sprawling panoply of information. It's not a novel, don't think there's any stories in it. There are some interesting snippets of history. In fact, there are many, many interesting snippets of history to illustrate the graphs and give some ideas of the outliers, extreme examples, how people lifted water out of rivers in ancient China. There's all kinds of things in here. The designs for the first bicycles, which I was pleased to see, does follow my hunch as being the most efficient machine for moving people about that has ever been designed, as opposed to the car, which was, following my other hunch, is pretty much the least efficient. And thankfully we will soon see its demise as a private vehicle taking up so much urban space. Whether I live to see humanity solve this energy crisis, this energy stroke population stroke carbon footprint crisis, is another matter. If you'd like to read lots and lots of graphs and lots of interesting snippets about it, Energy and Civilization is the book for you. I wait for new Smil books the way some people wait for the next Star Wars movie, says Mr. Gates, as he recommends this on his best books list. I know what you mean, Bill. I'm the same. I love a big meaty book. I mean, vegan, but full of facts.